You finish the paragraph, your eyes have moved across every word, and then, somewhere between the last sentence and the next breath, it's gone. Not blurred, not half remembered, just gone, as if you never read it at all. You sit there for a moment, the book still open, your finger still on the page, and you wonder, quietly, what is wrong with you? Most quiet, thinking people have felt this. The strange shame of finishing a page you cannot recall. You have probably told yourself a story about this, that you are getting older, that your attention is broken, that your phone has eaten your brain, that you used to be smarter, sharper, more capable, and now something has slipped. You have probably wondered if this is the early sign of something worse, if the people around you are reading and remembering and you are only pretending, if you are the only one whose mind goes quiet at the wrong moment. But it is not that your memory is failing. It is not that you are lazy or distracted or somehow less than the person who reads in cafes and looks serene. What you are experiencing has a shape and a name and a reason. There is a particular state your mind enters when too many small, unfinished things are alive inside it at once. A state where new information cannot find a place to land because every shelf is already holding something. I want to call this the crowded page. The page you are reading is not the only page open inside you. And tonight, gently, I want to walk through what is actually happening. Here is how the crowded page shows up in a life. You read the same sentence 4 times. Not because it is hard, because by the time you reach the end, the beginning has already drifted. You go back. You start again. You read it slower, almost out loud in your head, and somehow it still slides off. You start to feel a small heat behind your eyes, not from effort, but from the quiet humiliation of not being able to do this simple thing. You finish a chapter and you cannot tell anyone what happened in it. You know the names. You know roughly where you are in the story. But the actual scenes, the small details, the textures are gone. You feel like a person who walked through a museum without looking at the walls. And then you wonder if you are even really reading, or if you are just performing the act of reading while your mind is somewhere else entirely. You read articles you genuinely care about and lose them within an hour. You can recall that there was a piece about a topic. You cannot recall a single argument it made. If someone asks you about it later, you say, vaguely, that it was interesting. You hope they do not ask follow-up questions. You feel like a fraud for caring about a subject you cannot quote. You start books you never finish. Not because they are bad, because somewhere around page 40 you realize you have already lost the thread. Going back feels exhausting. Going forward feels dishonest. The book sits on your nightstand, page corner folded, and you walk past it for weeks. You buy a new one. The same thing happens. You start to suspect you have lost something essential about who you used to be. You reread messages over and over, especially the ones that matter. A text from your mother, an email from your boss, something a friend sent that felt slightly off. You read it once and the meaning does not settle. You read it again to confirm what you saw. You read it a third time because some part of you is no longer sure which interpretation is correct. The words have not changed. Your ability to land on a single reading has. You watch a film you saw last year and cannot remember the ending. You start an episode of a show and realize, 20 minutes in, that you have already seen this one. Your friend recommends a book and you almost recommend it back to them because you forgot they were the source. Memory has become a soft mist that refuses to hold edges. And maybe most painfully, you read something beautiful, something that moved you in the moment, a passage that made you stop and breathe, and a week later, when you want to return to it, you cannot remember which book it was in. The feeling is still inside you. The location is gone. As if your mind kept the warmth and lost the address. If even 2 of those felt familiar, please understand, you are not losing anything. Your mind is not failing. Something specific is happening, and it has a mechanism. Let me walk you through it. The first thing to know is that reading is not a single act. It is at least 3 acts happening at once. You are decoding the symbols. You are holding the previous sentence in mind so the next one makes sense. And you are quietly building a small inner model of what is being said, scene by scene, idea by idea. That third act is where memory lives. Not in your eyes. In the model. The model is built by a part of your mind called working memory, which is closer to a small temporary table than to a hard drive. It can hold only a few items at once. Maybe 4, maybe 7 on a good day. And every other unfinished thing in your life is already sitting on that same table. When you sit down to read at the end of a long day, you are not arriving with an empty table. You are arriving with the email you have not answered, the conversation you wish had gone differently, the bill you keep meaning to pay, the small worry about a person you love, the appointment next Thursday, the sentence you wanted to say in the meeting and didn't, the faint awareness that your body is hungry or tense or tired. Each of those is taking a seat. By the time you open the book, there is almost no room left for the new arrivals. The words come in. They look around. They cannot find a place to sit. They leave. This is what neuroscientists sometimes call cognitive load. Your working memory is a finite resource, and unfinished tasks consume it whether or not you are actively thinking about them. There is a phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, which describes how unresolved things stay quietly active in the mind, using a small slice of attention until they are completed or written down. Most of your unresolved things never get completed. They just accumulate, each one taking a sip from the same cup. And then you wonder why there is no water left for the page. There is another layer underneath this one, a part of your mind called the default mode network. This is the network that activates when you are not focused on anything specific. It is the wandering mind. It is the part of you that replays old conversations, rehearses future ones, drifts through memories, and quietly reviews your life in the background. For people who think a lot, this network is often very active. It does not turn off just because you opened a book. It runs in parallel. It is the second monitor you cannot see, playing a constant slideshow of your inner life. So when you sit down to read, the book has to compete for attention with the slideshow. Sometimes the slideshow wins. Your eyes keep moving across the page. The decoding still happens. But the model-building part of your mind is busy elsewhere, replaying something from yesterday or staging something for tomorrow. The reading happens. The remembering does not. This is why you can finish a paragraph and feel, accurately, that you were not really there for it. There is yet another layer, and this one matters especially for sensitive, thoughtful people. Your nervous system has a baseline level of activation. If your baseline is high because you have been navigating a stressful week, or because your body is processing something it has not had time to process, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for sustained focus, gets less of the resources it needs. Reading requires that prefrontal area to stay online and steady. When your body is mildly braced, even for reasons you cannot name, that area is fighting against a quiet headwind. It can decode. It cannot encode deeply. The information passes through without being filed. Imagine you are walking into a small library. The library has a kind librarian who will gently take each new book you bring her and place it on the right shelf. That is your encoding system. Now imagine the librarian is also being asked, every 30 seconds, to answer the phone, to check on a leaking pipe, to deal with a distressed visitor in the corner, to remember to lock up at 6. Books keep arriving. She tries. She really does. But by the end of the day, half of them are stacked on her desk, unfiled. They are in the building. They are not on any shelf. You will not find them again. That is what is happening to the words on your page. Not lost, just unfiled. This is also why the same person who cannot remember a chapter can remember every detail of a conversation that hurt them 6 years ago. Memory is not broken. It is highly selective, and it prioritizes whatever your nervous system has tagged as emotionally important. A passage you read while half anxious, half tired, half thinking about the dishwasher will not get tagged. 6 pages of beautiful prose will pass through unflagged. Meanwhile, an offhand comment from someone you love will be filed in 3 places, with cross-references indexed for life. There is one more piece, and it is tender. People who grew up in environments where they had to track many things at once, the moods of the people around them, the safety of the room, the unspoken rules, often develop a working memory that is permanently, partially occupied. A small portion of your attention is always scanning, always holding context that other people do not hold. You did not choose this. Your young mind built it because it needed to. As an adult, that scanning continues even in safe rooms. Even alone, with a book, on a Sunday afternoon, there is a watcher inside you that never quite sits down. The book is competing with the watcher. So when you cannot remember what you just read, what you are actually witnessing is a mind that has been holding too much for too long, with too little room to receive. You are not careless. You are crowded. I want to stay here for a moment. Because if you have been carrying a quiet shame about this, the kind of shame that whispers that you used to be smarter, that something is wrong with you, that other people can do this and you cannot, I want you to put it down for a second. Just for the length of this paragraph. You are not broken. Your mind is not deteriorating. You have not lost the person you used to be. What you are experiencing is the predictable outcome of a thinking, sensitive, often over-responsible mind trying to learn new information while also holding everything else it has been holding for years. The forgetting is not a failure of intelligence. It is a sign that the room inside you is full. Information cannot enter a full room. That is a fact about rooms, not a fact about you. And there is something almost tender about the fact that you keep trying, that you keep opening books, that you keep clicking on long articles, that you keep returning to the page even when the page keeps slipping. A person who had truly given up on their own mind would not do that. You are still reaching toward your own thinking. That reaching is not nothing. That reaching is, in some quiet way, the most stubborn form of self-respect. Most quiet people I know carry some version of this. The writer who cannot finish books. The student who reads 3 times and still feels behind. The professional who has stopped trusting their own retention. The grown adult who quietly worries that they have become stupid. None of them are stupid. All of them are full. The fullness is the diagnosis, not the failure. If there is one small thing to carry from this, it is this. Before you sit down to read, you do not need a better technique. You need a slightly emptier table. Sometimes that means writing down, on a small piece of paper, the 3 or 4 things that are taking up the most quiet space in your mind right now. Not to solve them, just to set them down outside of you for an hour. Tell the watcher she can rest. The page will hold itself. If this resonated, you already know where to come.